Greetings! Today I'm going to show you Rekin system and its 3D production module. Wizard Editor. In this episode I will show you how to create your own studio set design with the use of Wizard Editor. This tool is based on the tutorial principle and allows you to create a composition based on ready-made studio templates. As you can see, there is a default studio loaded into the production module. When you start working with 3D Studio Editor and open the wizard, the studio will go off the air as the work in these modules is done live. We start with opening the 3D Studio Editor. Its button will be visible after opening the source mixer. We press Open Studio 3D Editor button. The editor opens. We can launch the wizard by selecting Menu, Next File, Next Open Wizard. Or by using Wizard button at the top of the window. We will be informed that our current studio will be lost from the air. We accept it with Yes button. A welcome window opens. We can enable Do Not Show this window again option, so from now on the welcome window won't show up when we open the module. There is a screen on which we can see an empty set design on a plane with reference marks. A tooltip box shows the mouse navigation capabilities. The left mouse button allows you to change the virtual camera's position, while the right one allows you to rotate it. The scroll lets you zoom the camera in and out. We enable the option and click Close. The first step is to choose a template. The Rekin system allows you to work with several types of studios, both open and closed. When we hover the mouse over a thumbnail, an additional window appears and a larger image of the thumbnail is visible there. When we hover the mouse over a thumbnail and click the right mouse button, a tooltip appears with a description of the studio: name, category, subcategory, and keyword. We can use the search engine just as the tooltip suggests. Let's enter a name as Studio PE, for example. We can check hints for the template. If a thumbnail has a question mark, we can click on it. A new window will open with the studio's composition displayed. The picture will show the elements we can use from a given studio project. We can also choose other items available in the library. We close this window. Let's select the template with the left mouse button. Now we can go to the next step by using Next button, or by selecting another active tab. As this template doesn't have finished walls and ceiling, we cannot go to Walls Material or Ceiling Material tab. The next step is a choice of a material. At this point, we can change the floor's material by clicking on an icon on the right. We can also check the material's hints. We can use the browser typing wood, for example. We can also choose a wood category and shiny as a subcategory. Let's choose the desired material. If you want to restore the original material, press Restore Material to Default button. Now let's go to the next tab, Decoration. We will now deal with composition of objects in the studio. We can see the points that appear on the screen. They are called placeholders and we can place objects on them. There is a search engine on the right. We can click on the thumbnail with the right mouse button and see the object's description. Below we can see a list of objects along with a list of placeholders. A placeholder can be chosen by clicking on the preview. We can easily navigate through the studio using the left or right mouse button and scroll. Let's select a point. It will light up in red and its position on the list will be marked. We choose the items available in, for example, EP Studio category. Now we put this object on the selected placeholder. Some of the object's thumbnails have question marks. When we click on this sign, a hint window appears showing us ways this object can be used. Placeholders have their direction depicted as an inserted pin, and their rotation shown as a cone on the head of this pin. The inserted object will be positioned as indicated by the pin with the direction of rotation shown by the cone. For example, I will put the same object on two different placeholders. They have the same direction, that is, they are directed downwards, but they have different rotation. The first of them should be rotated to be facing the camera, while the second one will be facing left. We can remove objects by selecting them and choosing an option, Remove Decoration from Placeholder. Let's select the object again. We can see that when we inserted the object, some new placeholders appeared. They light up in red. The whole idea of building the walls and scenography is based on the technique of adding new objects. Selecting the next placeholder, we create another wall element. The new placeholders appear again. And again we add a subsequent element. This way we can build an outline of our studio. If we mark a placeholder on the first element of the wall, all other placeholders on the elements added later will be highlighted. And that is because they are linked together. Deleting the first item will also remove the remaining items. If something goes wrong, we can always use Ctrl plus Z combination. It is an undo function that is used to reverse the last action. In this project, a graphic designer also created elements such as railing. Placing it on a placeholder allows us to add even more elements. It is possible to add a ceiling element on a wall element via a placeholder located on the top of the wall element. We select the placeholder and find the ceiling element. We insert the ceiling element. Again, another placeholder will appear. We select it and find another element to add there. This way we can build an entire ceiling of our studio. More placeholders showed up on the ceiling elements and we can place more objects on them. Let's select a placeholder and let's add another element of a set design. Now let's select another placeholder and create another element. We can see a next placeholder that appears there, but this time it's upside down. The picture shows that the lamp object is also upside down. We'll see an actual view in the studio after adding the object. On the floor we can place a so-called platform. For that we select a placeholder located on the floor and then we choose a platform element. Another placeholder appears on this object and so we can add another element, a desk. On a subsequently appearing placeholders we can place, for example, a chair. Each element can be replaced at any time. Finally, let's not forget about adding a talent. The figure of a talent will be placed behind the desk on a placeholder located there. We type talent in the search engine and we add an object. We can also add screen objects. So let's choose a wall and a placeholder pointing towards the wall. Now let's choose a monitor object. At any time we can return to the Floor Material tab and change the floor material. Just remember not to change the template. We will lose our project if we change the template. When we are finished with composing the studio, we can press Close button. A warning: after pressing Close button, we close the wizard and go to the 3D Studio editor, where we can continue working with light or sky maps, improve objects' positions, etc. We won't return to the wizard after pressing Close button. In the end, we can set the sources in the 3D Studio editor. For the first one, the talent source, we choose a type of control from ABCD mixer, index of a source A. We set each source in this way. Now the source B, it will be a screen. Finally, I'll show you how to easily create a skybox. We select a scene. The skybox option is available below. Let's choose a type of our skybox, for example a cylinder, and then let's choose a file on the disk. We add this file. It is best if it's a panorama image. We can adjust the panorama to fit our set design by setting the skybox parameters. We can now save our project. Press Menu, File, Save Studio As, and type in a new name. Now we can press Save button. This way we have created a new studio's composition. I will now show you a ready-made studio's set design arranged from the elements. Let's load such set. It is a finished set design along with a full outline of the walls, ceiling and decorative elements. A sky map and objects shadows have been added in the Studio 3D editor. Thank you.
Checking. Keen on record.